Hello everyone, this is Venom, and today I want to go on a rant about the supposed controversy regarding the exotic class items that were just released for Destiny 2. Now, first off, I want to go ahead and say there's going to be spoiler-heavy rant here, so this has been your warning, this is your spoiler alert, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, before I get to the class items, I do want to go ahead and say this too. The final shape has definitely not only met, but exceeded my expectations. I was very clear that to make everyone happy, they needed to make sure they ended the Light and Dark saga correctly, respectfully, and they needed to also give us a reason to stick around. I think they definitely gave us a reason to stick around looking at the previews for the episodes coming out. I especially can't wait for the second and third episodes this year. We're going back to the Dreadnought later in the year, and then coming up after Echoes, the current season, or we call it seasons, or used to call it seasons, called episodes now, but we got the Vampire one coming up too. That's not a turn I saw coming, so I can't wait for that. And we got Frontiers afterwards. I hope we're traveling outside the solar system or something, but it's going to be hopefully pretty cool. Final Shape was amazing how it ended. I tell you what, I was one of the first players that got to play that final mission. I was up right as the raid race ended, so I was in there, one of the first few teams to go through it. That was amazing, and I've never had a more gut-wrenching moment or more emotional moment than when my Guardian was sitting there begging the Traveler to bring the Ghost back. That was amazing. It tore at my heartstrings. It was so damn gut-wrenching too. Like, I'm still thinking about what would have happened if Kate hadn't been there. So, regardless, it did very good. Week 2, of course, we got the second half of the Prismatic build. Actually, technically the third half, because in the we actually got in the Pale some overthrow missions, and it turns out you can, earn the Guardian sword in there too. So that was a bit of a surprise. That was a surprise exotic, and that exotic rolls with random perks on it and with random effects. So that was kind of the hidden part of Prismatic that wasn't told to us. But the big one that was told to us was the exotic class items that would have 2 exotic perks on them. Now, the I'm not even going to call it a controversy. I should say the complaint is from a lot of people, and you guys can go and verify this right now. I guarantee you, if you go into YouTube right now, matter of fact, go into YouTube, I want you to type in Destiny 2 exotic class item, or how to get the exotic class item Destiny 2. Doesn't matter which video, just choose one at random, click on it, and I want you to scroll down. Make sure it's got some views on it, and scroll down to the comments section. You're going to see a bunch of people saying RIP to solo players, or solo players are going to be locked out of this. And then when you look at the replies to that, it's going to say something along the lines of, you're not locked out of it, there's LFG, and then someone, like 13 people are going to say something about social anxiety, someone else is going to bring up something about a microphone, and that's pretty much what the controversy is. People are upset that in this multiplayer game, that they have to do things in a multiplayer setting to get one of the, if not the best exotic armor pieces in the game. And that's what I want to talk about. And it's just this mentality that in the multiplayer game of Destiny 2, that you have to do things multiplayer to get the best stuff in the game. Now, I do understand a few things here, and I don't want to just come off as being an asshole, because I understand social anxiety. I understand things like not having a microphone. I understand not having a clan. And I understand not being able to necessarily put a lot of time into things like raids. I'm going to hit all these points here one by one, but I do want to reiterate, and this is something that I want to make very clear, that unfortunately, there's not going to be a solution for solo players that just don't want to team up with people. This is a multiplayer game. You're going to have to team up with people to get the best stuff. But I'm going to go through these because I keep seeing this argument, and unfortunately, it's just not a very good argument. You're not locked out of getting the class items. You're not locked out of anything. You're just going to have to make an adjustment yourself. Whether or not you want to do that is completely up to you. Now, let me start with the basics. And at this point, I'm going to be talking about not just the exotic class item, but raids as well. And raids is one I'm bringing up before because I do a lot of Sherping and watch a lot of videos of smaller YouTubers, which again, I know I'm probably the smallest YouTuber for Destiny 2, but I see like a lot of creators like 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers, and they talk about not wanting to raid or not being able to raid because the community is toxic, or because they can't find groups, or because they have social anxiety. I want to talk about all this stuff too. I do a lot of Sherping, and I see a lot of bad information go out there, and a lot of people don't have a lot of the tools they need to engage with some of this content too. So let me go through this one by one. Now, first off, again, we have to establish something, and that is that Destiny 2 is a multiplayer game. There are single player aspects of it, but there are very, very few and far between. In fact, pretty much the only single player aspects would be the open world and the campaign. And even those you can do multiplayer. Now, you may say, what about stuff like strikes? Strikes are not single player. In fact, that's probably one of the few things in the game that you can't load into single player. I can load into a raid single player. I cannot load into a strike single player, which is honestly kind of annoying. I wish you could do that, but it automatically tries to matchmake you with people. Now, you may not have to coordinate with those people or interact with them in any meaningful way, but it's not solo, it is multiple people. Now, for pretty much everything outside of the campaign and the free roaming, you are coordinating with people, and outside of the strikes, of course. You're going to have to interact with or play with or coordinate with people. I mean, first off, all of PvP is out the window because you are playing on a team. Now, again, you may not be coordinating with them, but you are still playing on a team. It's a multiplayer game. Now, I think the biggest issues that people have with raids and with the exotic class item is that you can't just load in and just do whatever. You do have to actually raid. You have to do mechanics. Now, a lot of people are upset that you have raids that need mechanics, but unfortunately, for pretty much any game with a raid in it, you are going to have to perform some kind of mechanics. Now, for other games that are maybe like traditional MMOs or like top-down MMOs or stuff like that, the mechanics may not be as involved. It may just be people standing in certain spots to avoid being hit. It could be, killing enemies in a certain order. It could be any number of things, but every kind of raid has got its own mechanics, and Destiny 2 is typically pretty mechanic heavy. In fact, the newest raid my clan hasn't even started yet because we have to learn all the mechanics. And it's supposed to be the hardest raid in Destiny 2's history. But the raids do take mechanics, and that does take coordination. Now, raids are the probably hardest content in the game as far as coordination goes. So yeah, you do typically have to be able to communicate with people, and that comes with some challenges for some people. Now, one of the challenges that I have seen, and I've seen people complain about, are things like microphones or having to actually physically communicate with people because, they don't have a microphone or they can't talk loud. Well, again, unfortunately, that's just part of what you have to do for raids. I mean, there's no way you can get around it. Now, you could make the argument, well, how about Bungie puts out some raids that don't need a whole bunch of mechanics or don't need this and that? Well, they could, but then we'd have some of the same people complaining that, they couldn't, or their group can't survive. Or, if you take out the mechanics, all you really have is just throwing more ads at people or giving bosses more health, and then people will complain about that too, and then it's not really a raid. A raid is supposed to be something that's mechanic heavy that you have to coordinate to do. If you don't have to coordinate for it, it's not really a raid. You don't got to coordinate for strikes. That's why they're typically pretty easy. You don't really have to coordinate too much for the campaign. That's why it's typically pretty easy. But for raids that has I got some pretty good rewards for them, you get rewarded for cooperation, and that is part of what makes the raid so sought after, is that loot, and you do have to cooperate to get that stuff. Now, unfortunately, you're going to need things like microphones to communicate. Now, there are some groups that can take you through without microphones, and for some of the easier raids, there are groups that can go through and they can do it without talking at all. In fact, even in the LFG that was finally added to the game, which is its whole other issue, I do see quite a few people that post for, hey, looking for a group with no microphones. Even in the Destiny 2 in the Destiny 2 Discord, I see people advertising for, hey, talkless run of this raid, or, no communication run of this raid. So even then, people are still trying to do this stuff. You can go and try to find groups like that. However, from my experience and my observations, they're typically not very successful. Now, they're not successful for two reasons. One is because, again, to even learn the raid or do it, you typically have to communicate. But two, if you're good enough that you can do the raid without communicating, that means you've got enough practice. That means you more likely were already raiding with groups already and could communicate. You don't typically go backwards from that. If you can communicate and you can grab a group that can talk and you've got microphones, you're not typically going to suddenly do a communicationless raid and make it harder on yourself. So that's why those raids really ever work out. So talking and communication just physical communication is absolutely needed. Now, let's talk about the social anxiety aspect of it. And that's one I've seen bandied about a lot. And I'm going to be honest, I've never seen the word social anxiety as much as I have in a YouTube comment in Destiny 2. I have never in my life seen that used as much. Now, I understand 100% social anxiety. I really do. Now, you may say, oh, you know what you're talking about. You have no idea what it's like. I understand exactly what it's like to get into a group or to want to get into a group, but you're so scared that you're going to screw up or say the wrong thing that the second you get in the group, you just turn off your game, shut down your computer, and you just pray to God that you can ignore your game long enough that when you get back on, that maybe they've forgotten about you or they're not going to look for you, or you hope to God that there's no comment saying, hey, why did you leave the group, or hey, what's going on, or you really hope you don't get singled out. You just want to do the raid, not talk to anybody, and hopefully not have to engage with anybody because you're so scared of either embarrassing yourself or screwing something up. Hell, I've screwed things up so bad before, even though it was my first time when I was learning, that I just wanted to run and hide and never play the game again. I understand these things very, very well. Now, I myself have had social anxiety, and I worked through quite a bit of it, but I still have it. Now, unfortunately, if you have social anxiety and you have issues communicating, this is not the game for you. And this is something I think more people need to say, especially when it comes to Destiny 2. We want people to play the game. Don't get me wrong. We want a great Destiny community. We really do. And I do, for the most part, love the Destiny 2 community. However, you've got to understand that if you have social anxiety and you can't do things like raids, or you want to do things like raids but you refuse to communicate or refuse to try to work on it, this may not be the game for you. Now, I say that, and I also want to say this too. If you do have social anxiety or you do want to get into raiding and you're having issues with it, there are actually plenty of groups that can help you out with that thing. Now, I see plenty of comments saying that Destiny 2 players are toxic or raiders are toxic. Typically, when they're saying that people are being toxic too, they're also saying that there's too many people posting in, LFGs that you need to know what to do, and there are not enough people that are willing to teach people. I understand wanting to learn how to do a raid, but you can't really get pissed off at people for wanting experienced raiders. What you need to be doing is looking for something called a Sherpa. That's someone to teach you how to do a raid. Now, unfortunately, Destiny 2's in-game LFG does not have like a Sherpa tag or something like that. It's got like a beginner tag, but it doesn't really help you out. I'm going to go ahead and let you know, go to the Destiny LFG Discord, and you can actually find Sherpa channels in there to, find people to teach you how to do raids. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a Sherpa. You can't get pissed off at people for wanting an experienced raider to go through and knock out a raid quickly when you want to learn how to do it. That's not really fair to them. They may only have like an hour or two, and they're just trying to fill in a position for that week, and they want to get it knocked out. You can't really get mad at them that they don't want to teach somebody how to do a raid for the first time. In fact, those people that don't want to teach somebody how to do it, you probably don't want them to teach you anyway, because they're not going to be patient. They may not be ready to teach. They may not be good teachers. You want a Sherpa to do that. So you can't really get pissed off at people for wanting experienced raiders. That is something that is very strangely a common theme I see when people are complaining about raids, is that people want you to know what to do. It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand that one. Like, I saw somebody complaining that there were people that didn't want to do a blind run of a raid. They wanted to know how to get past it. And they were like, well, I just want to do the raid blind. I don't understand where everybody's looking up how to get past the raid. And I was like, you gotta understand, most people aren't trying to just run through a raid blindly, especially when it's not, contest mode. They want to know how to do it. And even on contest mode, they're still going to look up to find out how to get past the raid. They want to pass it. They don't necessarily just want to do it blindly. Now, I've done some blind stuff before, raid-wise and dungeon-wise, and it can be fun, but most people don't want to run through a raid blindly. They want to get it knocked out. And what I noticed pretty often too is that the people that want very specific stuff for a raid, they will join a raid group with a very specific thought of what they want to happen in mind, but they'll join a group that has the exact opposite thoughts in mind, and they get mad when that group doesn't acquiesce to them. Like this raider I was just talking about, he was upset that people didn't want to do a blind, and I'm like, unless you join a group that's saying they want to do a blind run, then you can't really get mad at everybody else for not wanting to do a blind run. Now, what he could have done, what I explained to him what he should have done, was start his own group saying, hey, during a blind run, who wants to join me? Something else to notice quite a bit is that people are too scared to start their own LFGs or to start their own groups. They're always looking for other groups that are already started. They don't want to start their own groups. I see the same thing with Destiny 2 clans a lot too. People don't want to start their own clans. They want to join clans that are already established, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I joined an established clan. But people are too scared to start their own too. They're like, oh, okay, I can't find a clan that has what I need. I can't find a clan that can, deal with this. Start your own clan. You can recruit people that are just like you. That's what clans are for. But too many people don't want to do that. They don't want to go through the social aspect of the game, which again is very weird considering that this is a social game. It is a multiplayer game. So to me, it's just weird that you don't want to do that. Now, back to the class item, which is what started this whole rant today. the class item to get it, you have to do a 2-person quest, and people are losing their shit on having to do a 2-person quest. Now, as far as multiplayer stuff in the game, this is a bit annoying, not because you gotta have a second person, but because the quest itself was longer than I expected. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the quest, but my first impression of it was forever tainted because I was trying to knock it out on my lunch break, and I didn't realize just how long the quest was. So that one was a bit annoying for that, but the quest itself is fun as hell. It really is. Now, as far as multiplayer stuff, this is like the least amount of multiplayer you have to have in the game. Like, I mean, you got to coordinate, but this is like a 2-person group is the least I've ever seen. Normally it's a 3-person group or a 6-person group. So, but people are really upset that you have to have a partner to do this, and this is one I just don't understand. Now, I get that some people may want to get the class item, but again, for some reason, they just don't want to deal with the social aspect of it. Okay, it's either you deal with the social aspect of it one time, and then you can farm it by yourself other than that, or you just don't get the class item. It's the same thing with the raid. Right now, there's a bunch of stuff with a new raid that I want, especially the bow with bolt shot on it. I want that really, really bad. But until I get my ass in the raid and actually do it, I can't really complain I don't have it. Now, I could go ahead and join it right now, but I'm going to do it with my clan, but that's just part of how the game goes. Now, I feel like this is one of those things where I should be talking about and saying that, like, you know, this is not how life goes either. I mean, you can't get mad at other people for not acquiescing to what you want. It's the same thing with the game. You can't get mad that a multiplayer game is not acquiescing to solo players. There's plenty of solo content in here already, and there are plenty of games that are multiplayer games with 0 solo content or 0 soloable content. So Destiny 2 is ahead of the curve on that one. But yeah, this was just my rant because I don't understand this one. Like, I get the social aspect thing, but you have to understand, you're going to have to choose a struggle. You have to choose a struggle. Either you want to get your class items and you want to do the raids and you want to do all the multiplayer stuff, or you don't want it to deal with people. Choose one. You either going to deal with people or you're going to go without. But you can't have too many struggles. You choose one struggle and get through it. So that is it. That was just my rant today. Like I said, I don't want to come off as an ass. I've dealt with all these problems before, which is why I wanted to talk about them. Growing up, I was very socially awkward. I mean, first off, I was just awkward in general as a kid. But then I also was socially awkward too, thanks to some stuff that happened when I was growing up. I have definitely had that. Even now, when I'm online, I definitely feel socially awkward. There are times where I don't want to show my face on screen, which I'm not now, but that's because I just don't want to plug my camera back in. But there are times where, I mean, when I'm even doing stuff as a Sherpa, I mean, I'm just like, I'm dying on the inside. Like, I can barely put 2 words together. I'm so nervous. So I just want to run away and put my head in the sand, and I power on through it. Now, I know not everybody can do that. And unfortunately, again, you have to choose a struggle. I mean, I can't reiterate that one enough. But again, I've been broke before. I've had no clan before. I've been unable to get past raids before. I've been unable to find partners before. I've been unable to freaking physically talk before because I was scared to death. I understand all of that. But you're going to have to choose what it is you want to struggle with. And then, yeah, that's all I got for you. So, again, that's been my rant for today. I hope I don't come up as an ass. But, again, it seems like it's common sense that in a multiplayer game, you have to do multiplayer stuff. Now, is it unfortunate that this class item you need to do stuff multiplayer? I wouldn't say that part's unfortunate. But I will say that farming for it's a bitch. I thought that once we unlocked that, maybe it would just start dropping in the overthrows. Once you do those, you get the sword and maybe a class item. This is not really very farmable right now. Yeah, you can find some rolls grabbing chests. They need to up that drop rate from chests a little bit, I think. Or they need to just start dropping it from overthrow. Give us a guaranteed drop after we do overthrow, like every other overthrow or something. I'll be fine with that. Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you for coming by. Please leave a like on the channel if you like what we're doing here. Please sub if you love what we're doing. Let me know down below. I mean, am I the only person that thinks it's weird? Again, I understand the social aspect of it, but let me know what you guys think down below. Is it too much, or is it should Destiny start catering more to solo players, or like, you got to let me know what you guys think below, because I definitely think I've got maybe a skewed vision on this one, but at the same time, Destiny, again, is a multiplayer game. I'd find it very weird that people are complaining that they can't do stuff solo in the multiplayer game. So maybe that's just me. Let me know down below. Thank you all for coming by, and I will see you all later.